welcome. Glad you're here today. Well, looking forward to this. We're going to be doing more of these here at YouTube. You know, I've kind of shied away from YouTube. I will tell you all that. We've had a lot of challenges with the copyright rules that YouTube uses. So anyway, we've got most of that fixed, and we're going to be focusing quite a bit on YouTube coming up in the future. So thank you for being with us here today. We did have quite a few questions come in. We'll try to also take some from the chat room to be able to do that. But before I do that, I want to introduce my cohort in crime. This is Allie, everybody. She's part of the staff here at Espavo, and she'll be reading the questions for us and being able to work with that. So thanks, Allie.
You're welcome. Glad to be here.
Good. Glad we're here. So anyway, I just want to welcome everybody. We have been very busy. Just a quick announcement, a quick commercial, if you will. We've just switched websites. Espavo.org will still be open for 90 days, but we've moved over to steverother.org for several different reasons. Obviously, it's an improvement on the site and a lot of other things to that. We will eventually be moving the Espavo name over there as well. But as many of you know, we have been under attack, and it's been kind of very nice to be able to actually move aside and be able to move to a different domain for a little bit and kind of release that. So anyway, that's what's going on. Welcome today. We've got a lot of new things over at the new site. There's a whole new way that we're charging for things. Lightmasters, if you haven't been over there yet, you need to go over and re-sign up. Your programs will stop after this, so you'll sign up, but you're also going to find some interesting things over there that I hope you enjoy. And as always, there's the little help desk ticket down at the bottom on the right-hand side of the bottom of every page. So you can always go there and ask any questions that you have about how to get in or any challenges that you might be having. But welcome. And the Lightmasters themselves, we're going to be doing quite a bit of work this year. We've just started Lightmaster 2500, which is kind of a whole new series for us. We kind of break it down into series. After a year, you become ordained as a Lightmaster, as a minister. In the United States, that's a legal ordination, by the way. Anyway, we're looking forward to a lot of this stuff going forward as we have, and lots of new things to look at the new website. So if you haven't seen it yet, go over and play. We're looking forward to it. Okay, Allie, I think we're ready to go here. We've got quite a bit ready to go. So shoot whenever you're ready. We'll just go ahead and get into it. Oh, I did want to say very quickly that I will be doing this out of channel. It's much easier for me to say the group said this in the past. Here's where they're at today. I can give you much more of a complete answer actually that way. The group will come in for a short channel at the end. So we'll do a little live channel for you too. Okay, Allie, where are we at?
Okay, well, we have quite a few questions. We had some really deep questions, as well as a lot of folks were putting their questions in with a lot of information tied to them. So I really had to sort of condense some of these. So I just want to let people know that their question may not be exactly the way they worded it, but just so we could try to get the maximum questions in today for Steve and the group to answer. And if we don't get to your question, hopefully we'll be doing one of these in the future, and we'll add that to the list. So here we go. And I tried to group them a little bit as well.
Great.
Yeah, so the first several questions are going to really focus in on kind of the current situation in the U.S.
Yep.
You know, after what we just had in early November, and some disillusionment going on. So I'm going to read a couple of the questions and then sort of let Steve answer, and then I'll just keep going through and make sure you haven't already answered a future question coming up. Okay, so that's how we're going to run that.
Sounds good.
Okay, great. So the first one comes from Elizabeth, and it's, can America's democracy survive this incoming administration? And along with that, Donna asks, will I see the political world turn around and go in a positive direction in my lifetime? I'm 63 years old.
The first question about the democracy, will it survive? We never had a democracy in the United States. I want to be clear about that. We have formed democracies all over the world. And we actually made sure that when we had a hand in forming a democracy, that they did not make the same mistake we made. The mistake we made was called the Electoral College. It's a very interesting thing if you read about it. When the Constitution was first written up, it was simply one person who objected to the fact that it was going to be, everything was going to be done by the numbers. He said it needs to be done by the state. And that's the other challenge that we have. We have a state with only a tenth of the residents at another state, and they both have 2 senators. This doesn't make sense. They both have the same amount of pull. Because of all these quirks and the Electoral College and everything else, and the fact that we also lump all of our state votes together, when the state goes one way or the other, the whole state goes, that has caused all sorts of challenges. And that for that reason, we've never actually had a democracy. This was called a democratic republic. We have had a republic this whole time. So in this energy, there's a lot to that we'll be working with to kind of share with you about what this is. Now, what the group said about this, they said we lost it back in 2015. They said we actually lost our democracy at that point, and that we may or may not get it back. We may or may not be able to have those things react in the same way. The other question about the young lady who's 63, by the way, all right, young lady. According to my standards anyway, I'm a lot older than you are. So anyway, according to that, the question is really interesting. Will it make there? You know what's going to happen? We want to involve ourselves with all these things that is going on. Of course, all of us that we're on the other side, that we're hoping for progressive stance, that we're hoping to move away from the religions controlling our, because the democracy, the Constitution is already being ignored and will probably be released. Trump has made that comment before. He's probably going to follow through on it to dissolve the Constitution. There's just too many rules that keep him from doing what he wants to do. And he does believe that he's king. And he's probably going to get away with a lot of it because of the Supreme Court being on his side, all the judges that he was able to support. There has been a takeover going on here for a long time. And it was finally in place. I will say, were the numbers correct? No, the numbers were not correct. I will say that. Are we going to find that out? The group said we're going to find it out, but it's probably not going to be for another 7 to 10 years before we finally uncover proof. In the meantime, it is very much like a conspiracy theory. And you know what? We're all sick of conspiracy theories. We're tired of hearing them in a lot of ways. So I will say that is one of the things that we'll talk about. Will you see democracy resolve in your lifetime? I hope so. I hope so. I hope it resolves in my time, and I'm 74. So the reality is that I do have great hopes for this. I do have great hopes that we will reach a level where we start to retrieve our country again. But in the meantime, it's going to go for a pretty negative swing, and I will tell everybody that. We've mentioned why. We've talked a lot about the ETs that were involved, how this happened. There was technology used that we still don't know anything about. It is a way of influencing people. It works really well. People that are on the other side that voted for Trump, they're not stupid. They're not bad people. That's not the case. But boy, they know how to hook people into it. And that's just the way it's going to be for a while until we discover that. All of this is happening in the third dimension. And our work, especially with Lightmaster, is going to be anchoring fifth dimensional tools to where we can step out of this mess and be able to live in a higher vibration. Will we still be controlled by the governments of the world? For a time, for a little time, but the more that we can step into the fifth dimension, the more we can anchor the higher tools, the less of that will happen. It's not just a thing where all of a sudden, snap, we're in the fifth dimension. We've been in the fifth dimension for a long time, but we're still using third dimensional rules. We're still using third dimensional in a lot of ways. One other thing about this, and then I'll move on because I know we have a lot of questions. This is also a very clear reaction for something the group has been talking about. And when the group's not the only one, they've been talking about the rise of the feminine energy. Well, guess what happens when feminine energy rises? The masculine grabs hold and tries everything they can to control it. And that is exactly what's taking place in our political scenes right now, globally, not just in the United States, but globally. Okay, back to you, Allie.
Okay, well, you've answered a lot of questions. I'm just going to quickly just read the questions that I believe you've already answered. So, will election rigging be shown before the inauguration? I think basically you just said
no.
That's correct. Not going to happen for several years.
The numbers are short. Everybody knows that. We had 16 million less votes than we did in 2000. That alone doesn't make any sense. Not with Taylor Swift talking the way she did, not with all the huge influx and all the people that were voting. So yeah, we know there's a problem. We won't be able to find it until later.
Yeah, got it. Okay. And another one of the questions was, does the group see 45 and his VP serving the entire 4 years, or will something change before Inauguration Day or during his first couple years?
I do not believe anything will change before Inauguration Day, other than the fact that there is a lot of interest welling up against him, including many international leaders. They're starting to take their position. The United States is very much isolating itself. Nobody wanted to see what's going to happen. We're just going to have to play it out. Hopefully he will alter a little bit of the plans. Project 2025 is a disaster for the United States and for everything. What will we see? Will we see some of these changes taking place? No, I don't think so right away, like I said. Now, will he make it through his first 4 years? He's planning on staying a lot more than 4 years. I am absolutely hoping that he does. Because if you look at number 2 in line, that is very scary. Because this man's extremely intelligent and will sit there and just lie right to your face. We've seen it happen. We saw it happen in the debate. That one scares me even more than Trump. So I will tell you that. I hope he does. I doubt it that will happen. He's got some physical issues that have been going on for a while. I do believe they'll be uncovered and he'll either have to step down. I don't think he'll die. I don't think that'll be the case, but I do think a lot of his frailties and some of these situations that he's dealing with will be uncovered and very public. So let's...
And is this Steve speaking, or is this what the group is showing?
No, this is what the group has been showing me all along. Yeah. And it's Steve speaking. It's Steve speaking about what the group has been showing me, yes. Yeah.
Right, of course.
Because that was one of my first questions, is will he make it through the first 4 years? He's planning on staying a lot more than 4 years. So he's planning on staying at least 8 years, and if he dissolves the Constitution, he may be a ruler for life, but he's rather old. So he's not going to live that long in the first place, and he's not really healthy. So those two things coming together are probably going to take him out early.
Right.
We'll see.
Right. He'd have to have a lot of people in Congress behind him to be able to go forth with some of those things that you just talked about, becoming a ruler for life, that kind of thing. That would, he'd have to have a lot of support. And that leads to the next question. Are we safe in the U.S.? And this particular person, Grace, she has family in Poland, and she'd like to know if her family in Poland is safe.
Poland is going to be difficult. I don't remember if Poland's recently a part of NATO. NATO has been a wonderful balancing tool, from my opinion. Again, I think it will be going away. He's not interested in NATO at all. So I think that'll be pulled out eventually, in which case Poland is kind of next on the list for Putin. Poland is one of the areas that Putin wants back. He really wants to restore, and we said this back in, when was it? 2010, 2010, somewhere around there, the group started talking about Putin wanting to rebuild the Soviet Union. That was his life dream. He stepped aside for a short time to let Medvedev come in and then took it back over, but he never really stepped out of anything. So he's a lifelong ruler here. Real simple stuff. So what's going to happen with it? We'll just have to wait and see. Don't know. And the group has not shown me very clearly. The group, again, they show me kind of the overview of a lot of this stuff. They don't really get into too many details unless something's important with a lot of the aspects, because they basically say it's not important. It's not as important as stepping up in the higher realms.
And this sort of leads into the next couple of questions, and let me do my best here. So, Janice says, in the U.S., a majority of the population chose to go backwards with this new administration and entrench an authoritarian rule at odds with everything that Spirit says that we've been achieving. We are supposed to be entering a new era, a new earth, and leaving the hate and darkness behind, yet it seems to be increasing all over the world, with Europe preparing for war. How do we keep the faith when we are seeing the opposite play out all over the world? How can the group help explain this to us?
A lot of people have been here, are here right now, from 300 years in the future, which is really interesting, which means that you brought something very special to this exact time. So the question is, and the group cannot see the future, please understand that. We can never tell the future. What they can tell you is where you're going and which direction it's heading. They call it the double-decker bus. You're driving the bus, they're on the upper deck. They can see a little further down the road than you can. They can see what's ahead, but they can't tell you if you're going to take a turn at the last minute or anything of that nature. So we have lots of possibilities to do this. The biggest answer to all of this is to step into the higher vibrations and let go of the fear. The fear is what will cause us to anchor back into the third dimension. If we anchor into the fifth dimension and start using higher vibrational tools, the first thing that happens is all of this will be less burdensome on us. Will it be safe in the United States? The crime rate's going to go up. The rule of law is gone. The crime rate, of course, will go up. There's no two ways about that. This is liable to spread to other countries. This is not, you must understand, the Heritage Foundation is global. They have been doing these prayer breakfasts that they do in the United States with Congress. They've been doing those all over the world. That is really interesting because we have a constitution that says separation of church and state. Guess what? That's gone. So we're going to see what takes place with all this stuff to do it. I do not believe that people can come in, even with the technologies that they've been using, and completely take us over. This happened before, according to the group. They call it, it was written up as the Garden of Eden. And Eve bit the apple, which means that the feminine energy rose. The feminine energy took over and got us out of those bonds and out of that situation. Now, it was written up in such a way like you were cast from this beautiful garden. You're going to have to go out and suffer on your own. That's how it was kind of written up. That's not the way the group tells the story about the Garden of Eden. They say that we were actually captors at that. We were captured at that time, and we broke out. We will break out again if that happens. In the meantime, this will only go so far before people start taking their power back, and I hope that happens. Right now, everybody's in shock. It's real simple. They're kind of reeling back and in shock, and we had a lot to say about it, about the ETs, about some of the ETs, and I really don't want to blame that on all ETs because there's some really good ones there that are working with us and working with the Earth. So let's not lump that. That would be like calling them Earthlings. There's a lot of other beings around that can work with us in different ways. I hope I answered the question there.
I think you did answer the question, and you opened up some more questions here that are in alignment. Why was the light that many of us have been bringing forward over these past years not enough to stop this situation And why does the light currently feel so weak and so dim in relation to the Heritage Foundation's target to establish a white fundamentalist Christian nation? And I think you alluded to that when you talked a little bit about the feminine energy.
Yes, the light will never go away. And the light that we have all anchored in our lives, it's only being hidden from us for the time being. It will not be that way permanently. We do have an opportunity to change all of this. And we need to hold that fear. So in the meantime, the thing that we need to be doing more than anything else is not so much taking to the street. I'm sure there'll come time for that. Right now, there's things underway that are going to continue underway no matter what happens. But the thing we can do is to come together as a community. The thing we can do is to hold hands and to express our challenges, express some of these, not live in them, but express them and be able to communicate about them. When we hold hands, we create miracles. It's that simple. So that's part of the reason, again, we've created this new website. I do believe we have opportunities there. We've got some new social media things coming up. And like I said, personally, here at Espava, we're going to be working with YouTube a lot. So you guys that are here at YouTube today, yeah, we got quite a few of you here today right now. So awesome. And we plan on coming back and working with a small community here in YouTube to just discuss some of the challenges. And it's not all going to be about politics. It's going to be about stepping into this higher vibration that we can live in. And then when we come back into our third dimensional world, which we still have to live in from time to time, we bring parts of that with us and step out of the fear and into the love. And it's not easy, but that's why we're here. Back to you, Allie.
Yes, that is why we're here. So we all have to stick together, and it's wonderful that Espavo has created this community for all of us to come together. That's one of the reasons. I've actually been with Espavo for, since about 2006, 2007, Steve. Can you believe that?
Wow.
It's been a long time. It's been a long time. And I've really appreciated everything that I've learned and I've grabbed, hold of for my own life. As far as what the group has given. And I wasn't always a light master. I did the free stuff for a while, but since I've been a light master, I've really gotten so much more from this experience and to anchor things in my own life. So I'll put that out there for the people who are considering it. It's a truly wonderful program that I'm just grateful that I'm a part of.
Thanks, Allie.
Now, let's move into a little bit more of other areas of the world. So Israel was an area that we have we have several viewers from Israel. And one of them, she's living in Israel, second year of the war, and what is exactly happening in the Middle East? And it's a very difficult and dangerous situation is developing here now. I would like to better understand and realize what this situation means on a spiritual level, how events will develop, what we should be prepared for, and how a light worker especially should behave while locally in this conflict zone to influence a change for the better.
Thanks. Well, one of the main things that we want to talk about here is the fact that war is a complete failure of communication. Nobody wins wars. Yes, we're seeing wars of aggression to take over areas, to do different things. That we've had some challenges with the Israel conflict for so many years. On one hand, you've got all the Palestinians. They're so frustrated they're throwing bombs over the wall at random targets in crazy times. And at the other time, you see Israel completely blocking and controlling everything in Gaza and in the West Bank. You're seeing a lot of things there. I always wondered what was at the crux of the problem here and what was really taking place. And the group only has one answer: belief systems. Everybody is living strictly by belief systems. They're living by, in Israel, it's the religion. And it's not so much that religions are bad, but when you only follow by religions, you have a problem. Let me give you an example. I saw a little interview coming from a gentleman. They were actually tearing down a house that was taken from the Palestinians that had been there all their lives. It was taken to make room for a settlement, which basically means that the Israelis are taking land from the Palestinians, even land that they agreed that they had. Well, this is at the crux of a lot of it. This and the fact that is an occupied land and run by Israel. Now, yes, you've got a problem. So you've got the United States is propping up Israel, giving them nuclear weapons, giving them all this other stuff to be able to defend themselves after World War II. And we have made a commitment in the United States to do that blindly. That we need to open eyes to that, because that is creating all sorts of challenges. Our blind support in many different ways, I do believe, should stop at this point. We're right on the verge of World War III, and it's liable to break out right there in the Middle East as a result of what's going on. So as I'm looking at this television program, and as we're seeing this Israeli being interviewed, watching them tear down the house of a Palestinian, they asked him, what gives you the right? And he says, the Bible gives me the right. The Bible says that this is my land. That's a belief system. And when you live by belief systems, the group calls it BS. And we have lots of challenges. Not just, and I'm not saying that religions are bad. We've gained a lot of really good things from religions. There have been some incredible stuff that religions have brought us that we probably wouldn't have had otherwise. So there's been some great stuff there. But when you live by a belief system alone and don't allow for evolution, that, I believe, is at the crux of the problem here. I don't think it's going to happen. I was hoping that Netanyahu would never make it into power. He's made it into power, and even though he's been caught for corruption, he's still in power. And that's kind of what we see happening in the United States as well. So I don't have immediate answers for that. But what can we do? Again, we can speak about it. We can hold hands. We can come together in community where community is safe and speak about some of these things so that we can get them off our chest. Do we have answers for all of it? No, we don't. This is going to have to play out. And I hope it plays out a bit differently than the direction it's heading right now, because it does look like we're heading toward war. And we're seeing it. We're seeing it on two different fronts. We're seeing it in the Ukraine and with Russia as well. President Biden has just given Ukraine permission to use U.S. weapons to bomb inside of Russia. That's going to set up the whole thing again, talking about nuclear war. I don't think it's going to happen. I do believe it's a bluff. I don't think it's going to happen. And this is where the good ETs may stop it. Because I do believe that if we started to get into a nuclear war, it would be stopped. And we've been shown this before. There have been ETs that have flown over the silos where the missiles are located. Scared the heck out of the countries. Scared the heck out of the United States when it happened. It really scared Russia when it happened. In Russia, they actually took over the controls. They actually armed the missiles and started them all on a countdown. That really scared them, and then they shut it off. But I think they were kind of showing that they have control, and they're not going to allow us to blow up this planet, because it would do that. It would basically start to end our magnetosphere, our ionosphere, and we would end up looking very much like Mars, and we don't need that. So that's the direction that we're heading, and I hope that we have this fairly well resolved here in the near future. Hang on just a second, Allie. There we go. Okay. Anyway, back to you, Allie.
That means we all need to stay in the light.
Yes, we do. And practice the light and talk about it. Yes.
That's right. So,
Exactly.
it's finding those practical things to do is, very important for us light workers. So thank you for continuing to hold that light for us.
You bet.
Moving on to a different country. Ramona is from Portugal. She actually moved to Portugal a while ago, and through some personal circumstances. And while she has a great desire to leave Portugal, she doesn't seem to be able to do that. And she is observing many light workers both coming to Portugal, moving to Portugal, and she continues to have images of herself with her arms open wide at the water's edge, holding back what feels like a tsunami. And pretty soon in her vision, more and more light workers come behind her, and she feels like, they're like this line of light workers holding back a tsunami. So she says, it feels like a new portal of light has opened here, perhaps a stargate for interplanetary beings to come and go. Is there any special significance to this area of the world in Portugal, or am I just watching too many movies?
I love that. That's great. Yes, I watch a lot of documentaries myself, and some of them are just fun. Some of it, but every once in a while, even if I'm watching something I'm not really hooked into, the group will tap me on the shoulder and they'll say, "Pay attention." And that's kind of the nudges that end up being some of the channels and things that we talk about. So I do watch a lot of documentaries and read a lot as a result of that. Okay, Portugal. You may remember, this was probably 6 months ago, maybe 8 months ago at the most. The group talked about 4 new portals opening on planet Earth. Now, portals move, so they're not always in one place. The group's made this very clear before. Sometimes they will disappear for a short time and come back. But a portal is basically what Einstein called a wormhole. It's a shortcut between dimensions. And that opens up opportunities not only for other beings to come through, and right now it's just our parental races that are coming through. There are billions of other beings out there. Billions. You have no idea. We cannot count the number of galaxies that we see in the sky. A lot of when you look in the night sky, you see these things that are called stars. Many of those are galaxies with billions of stars in them. So we have so many other beings around here. Right now, it's just our parental races. There were 6 originally. There's only 4 left. And most of them are here to do good. They really want to extend this game, this planet Earth. They want to help the planet first and humanity second. And right now it does appear that humanity is going to we're going to make some choices that are probably going to be very negative. One of those portals was Portugal. I personally know 4 people that are moving to Portugal. 3 of them as a result of this election. You're absolutely right. It's a hot spot. It's a very important spot right at this moment. It's a place in Portugal, a place in Europe that is here basically to open up other possibilities and to anchor a new light. You will have some help there. What about the tsunami? Well, we're looking at a lot of that. I mean, if an atomic bomb goes off anywhere, there's going to be tsunamis. There's going to be all sorts of challenges that we have to deal with. On top of that, we're looking at some earth movement in the way of volcanic activity, which has caused tsunamis before. So I will say the group has not specifically shown tsunamis, whether it was an actual tsunami or whether it simply meant that Portugal is a light spot where people can hold back the resistance of this general takeover of the world that is taking place by religion. And that part I'll leave alone. But anyway, that's what I don't have any information about the tsunami. I'm hoping it's metaphorical. It may not be, but either way, you've got it right. If we can come together, if we can create some stuff, I'm probably going to be moving to Belgium myself, so it's not that far away. We'll come and see you. Like I said, I know 4 people that are moving to Belgium right now, or moving to Portugal right now. So it is definitely a hot spot. You're in the right spot. Don't run. Stay put. We need you there. Back to you, Ellie.
Go, Natalie. Or Ramona. Actually, that was Ramona. Well, you touched on the our parental races, and so I'm going to move into that question.
Sure.
The group has talked about the 4 parental races, and that they've now disappeared, or 2 of them have disappeared and gone extinct. Can you tell us anything about who they were and where they were from? And as a follow-up question, is there anything you can share by way of a message from them before they disappeared to guide us now?
Yes. Thank you for asking. There is a feminine aspect of the group that will be coming in very soon. Of the group is a group of 9. I'm one, 8 of them on the other side of the veil, of which 7 have been identified. There are 2 that have not been identified. One of them is a very strong feminine energy, not like Meria. Meria is very soft and gentle. This is a different type of feminine energy which will be coming in. I've been told about her. I've been told that she will be in no later than December 21st in Belgium because we're doing a live event there. I know she's going to be represented there. I don't know if she's coming in earlier. But that is one of the aspects that we can step into, the rise of the feminine. Now, the feminine works different than masculine. The feminine energy doesn't always make the news. The feminine energy works with a harmony. The masculine energy works with force. So we've always tried to build our muscles and get our might and make sure our governments have enough guns and war toys and all the rest. That's all masculine energy. We have opportunities to work with feminine energy, which will eventually balance, not take over, balance the masculine energy in a whole different way, step into a whole nother level of the world as far as our leaders and things of that nature. So anyway, that's basically what's coming up. Now, what about the 2 that left? There's quite a bit. This feminine energy that's coming in is from the other side of the veil. So we're not channeling other beings. To the group, it comes basically from the angelic realm. They've talked about that. They don't want to give a whole lot of information about it because we can't really understand. We can't understand simple things like the word infinity. It's beyond our comprehension. So we kind of give illustrations to kind of understand some of these things. I can't tell you exactly where they're from, but I can tell you there was a huge sacrifice by one of these races. They actually agreed to leave and end their race of beings for the good of all that is. And as a result, they are on the other side, jumping in all over the place. Some of them you're going to call Palladians. Some of them you'll call ETs. It doesn't make any difference. They don't have egos. They don't care what you call them. The group doesn't care whether you believe in them or not. That's not the whole thing. This is not about blind faith. This is about us being able to give you some tools that work for you, plain and simple, to be able to step into a higher vibration on these levels. This one race of beings, and I'm simply going to call it number 4, because it was the 4th race, loving, incredible beings. Many of these beings showed we've had, the group says we're in the 4th world. First one was on Mars. Maybe the first 2 were on Mars. We don't know. They've told stories about that. We're talking about it in the new Light Master that's starting next week. We're starting to talk about all these things that took place. The group wants to tell about the history of the world and the history of humanity. So we're actually starting a whole new series with that process. In that, they talked about Mars. We actually lived on Mars, and we're discovering that. We will discover remnants of previous civilizations eventually. We've already discovered water. May not have found the water yet, but we've certainly seen the evidence of past water. We've had 3 other opportunities. The last one was the end of the Ice Age, which happened very quickly. Ice covering a huge part of the planet, and comets coming in, burning hot. They hit the ice. The ice turned very quickly to water and flooded the world. Every religion on the planet talks about the Great Flood, talks about that part. The Younger Dryas is the end of 12,500 years ago. That is the end of the Ice Age, and it happened catastrophically. Massive floods, massive fires, all sorts of things that they're just really finding out about the Younger Dryas and what took place. But after that, these beings came in, and they gave us information. They gave us information about getting along together. They gave us information about love. They gave us information about how to live. They helped build the pyramids, for crying out loud. They've helped in many different ways. And we've got petroglyphs of them all over the world. We've got stories about them all over the world. Look at Göbekli Tepe. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Göbekli Tepe in Turkey. It basically was just a whole place where they told the story in carved stone about what took place at the end of the Younger Dryas. And they talked about all these beings coming in, these star beings coming in. That is one of the races that you will be hearing from when she comes in. And I wish I had a name or something. They haven't given me that yet. We have to find a name that fits into English because, we have this language problem. But anyway, basically that's something that's going on that we'll be talking about in mass. But these beings have sacrificed a tremendous amount, especially this fourth race. Other races are here. They're very active. They've been with us. We've heard about the Greys. With all the scary stuff about the Greys never have shown any harm other than taking us and experimenting with us and everything else. And I think about that every time I look at the Animal Channel and I see us tagging fish and putting tags on animals that we put in the forest so that we can track them. Same was done with us. That's basically what was happening. So the reality is they have the technology to take us over if they wanted to. They're not. There's only one faction of one race that is trying to do it. It is the reptilians, and it's not all the race. It's just a small faction of them that is behind a lot of this takeover. It's the same thing that happened in the Garden of Eden. Okay, enough for that. I can go on forever, but I think I answered the question.
I think you did, but you also brought up a lot of aspects of Gaia, Mother Earth, and there were several questions that actually asked about what her future is, and a couple of the questions. One of them was some mention something called the event as a moment of change, a moment that will actually change the world. Will change like this actually happen? And if so, what is the event? Could it be like a gigantic solar flare? Would it be nuclear war? Is there some major catastrophic event basically that will, take us out? You talk about the group, not having, not seeing the future, but
no, they've talked about this. They've basically said we've done irreparable damage to the earth. She will not be returning to the same earth that we know. Whether we are able to stay alive here on this planet, we don't know yet. They basically gave us 70 years. And then they said at the end of 70 years, if you haven't turned this thing around, and we're getting help. We talked about this 4 portals opening. They're busy and they're more interested in helping the earth really resolve that than we are, than they are with us. Yes, we have caused a lot of the problems. The earth is also going through some of the changes naturally. So some of it's a natural ending of the ice age, which went on for a very long time. Like I said, 12,500 years ago, we had the catastrophic end of the ice age, where massive floods took over everything. It's not the first time that happened. We know it happened 65 million years ago at the end. That's when a big asteroid hit the Yucatan and threw so much dust in the air it killed all the dinosaurs. You can, in certain parts of the world, you can see a gray line in the geology, and we call it the 65 million year line, because that's basically the place where we had to start over. Were humans here 65 million years ago? No. Group says we were here 9 million years ago, which is totally beyond what our archaeologists say. They only say we've been here about 12,000 years. So the reality is we've been here a lot longer than that in many different ways, but we've got a lot to work with on these. The catastrophic events happen from time to time. Right now, the group is watching the sun very carefully. We were due for a minimal solar flare season, a solar maximus. It's turning out to be a huge one. In fact, yesterday, the sun fully flipped from north to south. That tells us we're in solar maximus. Now, the end of this is actually going to be later in a year, about a year and a half, we'll be actually ending this solar flare season and be able to do that. In the meantime, we are getting completely barraged with these solar flares. Most of the time, they're not harmful, but we're getting a lot of information and a lot of work with things called neutrinos that I have not seen any. I take a lot of science magazines, I read a lot of science stuff, but I haven't seen any science that equates neutrinos to the solar flares. I will say that. And we really don't know too much about neutrinos. There's billions of them passing through my body right now. And they say they're so small they can't have an effect. The group says, no, they have an effect. And you're getting this. So whether this is going to be a good effect or a bad effect, we don't know. But that's the reason we're going to be giving a lot of reports on these solar flares, what they're doing, how they can affect us emotionally, a lot of other aspects that are taking place right now on planet Earth. Planet Earth is changing, but so is the sun. And that's important to keep in mind. So these are all things that are taking place. Can they lead to catastrophic events? Absolutely. On top of that, we have a comet that is heading toward Earth. We are starting to push that in Lightmaster. We've done this before. We did it one time when Lightmaster, they told me to push this comet. Everybody thought we were crazy. I thought we were crazy. And we started pushing this comet. About 6 months later, a comet came between Earth and the moon, that close to the Earth. And it missed us, but it came really close. And nobody saw it coming until the last minute. We may see similar things. We always have the skies to look at. You have the toroid meteor shower, which happens from time to time. That is the same meteor that the Earth found its way into that ended the Ice Age and caused the Younger Dryas and the flooding. So it's still moving. It's still going by. We just passed it. November 23rd, I think, was the height of the toroid meteor shower. So every year or 2 years or so, it comes by, and we can certainly drift into that thing again and have other problems. Yes, we can have that. And we can also push it. If we come together and we're aware of these things, we can change this. We can strengthen the magnetic shield around the Earth. That is our heart energy. Head's electrical, heart's magnetic. If we come together and we hold hands, we set energy for ourselves and the Earth, we strengthen all of those things. And that's something that the group really wants to work with to be doing.
So, you brought up two more things.
Sure.
That align with a couple of more of the questions that came in. And that is the head to heart energy. How do we do that? In Lightmasters, we definitely talk about that, but are there some steps that the group can talk about where you can align your head and your heart and put that into action? And I think so that's one question that came forward. The other question, or the other comment that I want to make based on what you just said, is that when we know about something and we can come together as Lightmasters, as just all people, to try and push something away, push a negative energy away or a catastrophic event away, the idea is, how do we know that those are coming? And for me, it's being a part of Lightmasters. It's being a part of a SPAVO. That, Lightmasters is able to get that information from the group, and then you're giving us tools and direction on how to do that. So again, knowing that these things are coming in advance as much as we can get is very important, and I know the Lightmasters offers that. But if you could talk about the mechanics of how to move your thoughts and your heart and align those things and put those into action. That was another question that came through.
Sure, absolutely. It's really a difficult balance, because when we have a thought, we think about something. Well, when we create through our thoughts, we create exactly. The moment you say, I want something, in your head, you're basically going to create more want. And you're going to create exactly what you set out, not what you intended. If you balance it with your heart energy, is this something that I want, that I am in love with? Is there an energy behind it? Is there something I know deep in my heart that this is the direction? And I've also got my head aligned? Yes, that's how the manifestations work. That's how this works. It's not an easy balance. The best we can tell you is to check both. That if you want to manifest something, first of all, check your heart, but your heart's not alone. You can fall in love with a lot of things that you're not going to be able to manifest. We do it all the time. We said, well, I was absolutely sure that this is what I wanted, and I really set out to do it, but it didn't happen. It didn't happen because we didn't check a couple things here. We didn't balance the two together. Then this is fifth dimensional work we're talking about. This is more critical than anything else. Third dimension was simple. You had to write it out, right? You had to be specific about your manifestation. You had to tell exactly what it was. You had to think about it. You had to repeat it. You had to do all the repetitions, saying it out loud, all the different tricks. Worked fine in the third dimension. We're in the fifth dimension now. Things are different. We have to balance this between our head and our heart to know the mechanics of how to get something, to study up on what it is we want, and then on top of that, to really fall in love with that. If we can't do that, focus somewhere else. Very simple. Focus somewhere else. Now, it becomes difficult because you can only create for you. And I tell you, almost every mother will argue that point with me because they'll think, oh no, I can create for my child. And you can for probably maybe the first 3 years, 4 years maybe. After that, basically the child takes over and does a lot of aspects of that. But in large aspect, we can only create for ourselves. Now, if I want to create something as wonderful as world peace, the only way I can do that, since I have to create it for myself, is to hold hands, just to talk about it, to get other people on board, to get other people to balance it between their head and their heart. Here's what's happening. Here's what we can do. Where are you? What do you want? How does this feel for you? Really get people involved with it. And that's the community that will actually be ruling Earth down the road, not world leaders. We're returning to the days of Meria, where the world leaders did the important things like take out the trash. They did the important things like make sure we had the things that we needed, not fight wars, not try to take over new lands, those types of things. We're moving into a higher state, but we're going to have a time with it. And as we move into it, you're also going to have the old time grab you and try to pull you back down. Just breathe. Just look forward. Balance it between your head and your heart. Know that you're doing the things you can. Study what you need to study for your head. Balance it in your heart. We talked about electrical magnetic. It's part of the same wave. If you know science, you'll know that there's an electromagnetic wave. Well, it's actually a spiral. And if you measure it this way, it's electricity. If you measure it this way, it's magnetism. So we are basically getting our spiral in order to create this by using this and trying to balance them. It's a fairly new concept, and I don't have all the tricks and answers to it yet. The group's bringing more in, but we just did a seminar on that called Manifestation. And it was all in the Light Master work too. So yeah, these are here. These are here. I wish I had more specific answers for you, Ellie. I don't. But the group's talking a lot about it right now, and that kind of gives you an idea of what we're doing. We're trying to get into higher stuff. Yeah.
That's okay. And I'm glad you brought up the manifesting course that was just put out, because there was some questions about, can humanity speed up the time, coming in for abundance and manifestation. This particular question was actually focused more on no longer needing a monetary system, by each of us examining honestly our own attachments to ranking and holding the power over others.
Well, I think that's exactly where we're going. According to the group, we're actually returning to the days of Meria. We know very little about Meria. We know a lot about Atlantis. There's a lot of storytelling about Atlantis. About Meria, we know actually very little about that whole process. But the group basically has given some stories that illustrate that we had open heart chakras. And you're all empathetic now. You're empathetic beings, you're empaths, or you wouldn't be watching this. So you're feeling a lot more than most people feel anyway, or you would not be watching our work. If you can amplify that by 100, those are the people that lived in Lemuria. And when they took a step, they were aware of the grass that they were stepping on. They learned to do it in such a way that when they stepped through a field of brand new grass, they could make it grow stronger instead of trample it. So living in harmony is something we're not used to doing. We're still coming out of the survival age. So that's what's taking place. We're having these massive changes of stepping out of survival as the primary motivation and stepping into unity as the primary motivation. It's right ahead. Again, going to take a little time to get there, but that's what we're working with. That's how we're doing it.
That's exciting. So Tracy asked, I feel the date 12/12/24 is very relevant, given the tipping point that we're currently experiencing. It will be 12 years after the portal opening associated with the date 12/12/12. The shift is ongoing now, but will that date coming up, 12/12/24, set the fulfillment in motion? Kind of feels like that date might be very important.
It's a great opportunity. To my knowledge, there's no astrological alignments that are behind that. But you know what? The date 12/12/12 was nothing special either, and we made it something special. We celebrated it. The group got me on the 2/2/2, February 2nd, 2002. And they said, celebrate these years as they go by, because the 12/12/12 is going to be something very special. Well, we did. We did the 02/02/02. We did the 03/03/03, the 05/05/05, all of them. We did special seminars. We worked with each one to build up to this 12/12/12. Was it a preordained? No. We created that, and we can create it again. That's the most important part. I don't know whether we have time to create one in then 12 days. I have not been working with that myself. The group has not mentioned it. But yes, you bet. If you expect a miracle, guess what? You'll create it. It's that simple. So let's do that. Let's all focus on the 12/12/24. Let's create this away, because we can set something into motion. To let you know what the group said, the 12/12/12, we were able to anchor the fifth dimension completely and live in it as much as we can. We keep using third dimensional rules inside the fifth dimension. They think we're crazy. But, that's what we're used to. We're used to getting up in the morning and putting on the same clothes and being able to go through the same routine. So little by little, we're learning to anchor that fifth dimension. That's what the Park Bench Project was all about. Anchoring the fifth dimension in a different way to be able to do that. So these are all different aspects that we can work with as well.
When we talk about all the 5D, the 3D, and all of that, those terms weren't even there 10 years ago. We didn't even really talk about those. The group did, but a lot of people in the outside world, I would call it, did not. I'm from corporate America.
Right.
I was a corporate executive in private equity, and nobody would talk about that kind of stuff. And today, it's finally becoming more commonplace. So it's a really beautiful, beautiful aspect of what's happening today.
It really is. It really is.
It really is. So I want to go to a question. You alluded to this this concept earlier, and it came up about the akashic records. Just a few. I think it was a park bench, or I'm not sure what it was. It might have been Light Masters.
It was a Light Master.
It was a Light Master.
Yeah.
Call. And so the group recently explained that akashic records are only from the past and not the future, which I think a lot of us found very surprising. The group has also said for several years now that many of us, as you alluded to earlier, have come here from 300 years in the future to bring our gifts. Is that not considered the past, and therefore can that be read in the akashic records?
I love the question. It's a beautiful question.
It's a
Yeah.
hard question. It's a hard question to put together.
Yeah, it's a difficult question to put together, but I absolutely understand. If people came from 300 years in the future, why don't the Akashic records go into the future? Well, real quick, the Akasha, which is a word that is used, it basically came from the Kabbalah, the Jewish religion and the Kabbalah. The Akasha is the fluid that connects us all. They've been talking about it for eons of time in the Kabbalah. It's been used in metaphysics a lot. Akasha. I have two publishers, one in the Netherlands and one in Turkey, and they're both called Akasha. So obviously this is a main thing. What is that fluid energy? Well, the group's been talking about it. They say that it's what they've been calling the universal energy and what science calls dark energy. Science is starting to unveil things that the group has been talking about and connecting it in different ways, especially with quantum physics. We've used a lot of quantum physics to illustrate points that the group's been talking about. So with this Akasha, we can only read into the current moment because the group says time is an illusion. They say that specifically because they say we think we have past, present, and future. We only have right now. The past is a memory, the future is a potential, but we only have right now. So how do people travel 300 years from the future? They go home where there is no time. Time does not exist at home. So if you want to jump in at 2012 and watch the craziness that was going on, you want to jump in at different points, you want to go see Hitler, you want to go do some of these other things, you can do it. Now we talk all about you can't change anything, you'll be killing your grandfather and you'll disappear, all this stuff. It's not the way the Akasha works. The Akasha works quite differently. And on top of that, we have multiple dimensions. Now, I'm not talking about the third, the fifth, and those are collective dimensions we live in. But we also have 11 different dimensions of us. And our spirit is doing all these different things in alternate realities. We have a timeline that we see. We think it's past, present, and future. There's another one right next to us, and another one right next to that, another one right next to that. In fact, it could very well be that some of these ETs that we see doing crazy things, completely violating our rules of physics with their crafts, can just learn how to move between dimensions. So there's a lot to this that works. I wish I had a simple answer for you, but one thing that they said about the people that were here from 300 years from the future, they had normal lives. They didn't just pop in. They went home first and they reincarnated here now. They had parents. They were born. They have a full life. They're not walk-ins. So it was a different situation. And they said with those people, they have sacrificed a lot to be here right now. And very few of them know it. Most of them aren't at all aware of it until we say something like this and they go, oh, I wonder if I've got something there. That's the case. And hopefully we have enough of them to make a big difference here. Was I able to come close to answering that question?
You came close to it, but I'm gonna ask some follow-up questions.
Go ahead.
I think it's a really good point that you brought up right at the very end. Once you identify that you might be one of these people that have come back from 300 years ago to bring your gifts, how do you identify what gifts those are? And is that something that the group can help us with through private sessions? And I say this as somebody who's had several private sessions with the group, and it's life-changing, and it's very helpful when you're dealing with a lot of things in your life that don't make sense, and you can try to make sense of it, and the group has been very helpful for me. But can the group help us understand if we are one of those from the 300 years ago, and what our gifts are, and kind of help us bring those into fruition? Yes,
and in all fairness, you don't have to come have a session with the group. I only do a limited amount of private sessions, so they sell out pretty quick. I don't put enough of them on the calendar to really accommodate everybody. But there's other places you can get it as well. This is part of what we do in the Park Bench Project when we take you on these long meditations to be able to see some of this energy, to be able to help remember who you are, and to help your spirit come forward in your physical presence. When your spirit comes forward, your eyes get bright. Things change. You start sending out an energy in front of you that changes what's in the room before you walk in the door. There's a lot of this that we can all work with together. And I'm not the only one that can do that. There's a lot of people that are doing private sessions, in all fairness. Thank you for saying that, though. I love to do the private sessions when I get the chance. They're a lot of fun to see other people from the perspective of the group. But yes.
It's a great experience. It's a great experience. I mean, I encourage it. I know you don't put a lot out there, but when you do, I mean, I plan on getting another one. So, okay, so let's move into something a little bit more kind of in the real world, as you might say.
Sure.
There are suspicions that Big Pharma is hiding effective treatments in order to preserve their profits. Is this true? And will there be a Me Too type movement for Big Pharma?
Yes, I sure hope so. That is absolutely true. The Big Pharma has ruled a lot of things. Look at the Sackler family, who created the opioid crisis. You want to watch something really interesting, especially if you're a Edgar Allan Poe fan. You can go to Netflix and watch The Fall of the House of Usher. It's all about the Sackler family. It's tied in all of his things with the Sackler family and what they have done. Yes, it is. The corporations are built to make money, not to help people. If they actually made decisions that would help people versus making the money, their board of directors, their stockholders may come after them, fire them, and replace them with somebody else and be perfectly legal in doing so. So we need to understand that businesses are in business to make a profit. Doesn't mean it's right. Doesn't mean it can't change, because it can. And in fact, pharma is a big one. Big Pharma is fascinating. They brought us some wonderful things, but in reality, they've taken everything from nature. Most of the time, they'll take some crazy thing that some Aboriginal was using in Australia to heal something, and they'll tear it apart, and they'll go down to the molecular level, and they'll change a couple of molecules so that they can patent it and reproduce it and put it out to us, and then run ads and telling us why we need this and why we need to tell our doctors that we need this. And then read this long list of side effects that's on there. Absolutely amazing. And it works. It's part of the technology that can help change our minds that they're very good at using. So are they hiding things? Of course they are. Absolutely, of course they are. They've been hiding things all along. The cigarette industry has been hiding things. The oil industry has been hiding things. Recently, Toyota made an announcement that they were going to make a motor that works off of water. Think about that. And furthermore, the group said this was discovered almost 50 years ago, but it was hidden. It was basically stopped, and it was done by money. Those people that wanted to build something like that, they needed the metal, they needed the basic tools to do it. They need all those things. But if the auto industry owned all those things and basically controlled them, they stopped them from doing it. And it's happened many times throughout things. It's certainly happening with Big Pharma. Doesn't mean that all drugs are bad. They've also uncovered a lot of things that are absolutely wonderful. But when you look at things like Martin Skelly and what he did, buying a company and raising the price of an injector pen that millions of people used, raising the price some 10,000-fold. I mean, it was ridiculous what he did. Now, he's in jail right now, so he's a bit of an unusual thing, but he still owns that company, and still the price is still ridiculously high. We don't have control over that because the government doesn't have control over private business. Real simple, but we do. And if we pay attention, this is something we can do that I learned a long time ago. I was not a good student in school. I was bored out of my mind. I wanted to get out of there as fast as I could. But I had an economics teacher that taught me one thing that was very important. You can vote and have a difference on your vote, or you can vote with your dollars. What you spend is supporting someone. How are they voting? What are they doing? So if we pay attention and we start investigating where some of these things are, who some of these drug companies are, and furthermore, what other aspects they have involved, and we pay very close attention to that, we can make a difference on this planet. We can absolutely make a difference on this planet. I'm so furious at Fox News for all the incredible amount of lying that they have allowed on their award-winning news channel. I have removed them from my lineup on all my televisions. Furthermore, I won't go into a Fox theater. And I know that they're different. I know it's just the same name with different things. And I know the Fox channel has nothing to do with Fox News. Murdoch sold it and separated the two. But for me, that's stuck in my mind. I vote with my dollars very carefully. If we all did that, we'd immediately have an effect. And we can have an effect on Big Pharma this way too. Are they hiding things? Yes, of course they are. And that's the other thing that's taken place with social media. There's a lot of experimenters. There's a lot of people out there that experiment on themselves and then they share things on social media. Every doctor will tell you it's wrong. Why would you do that? You only pay attention to the doctors. Well, guess what? Doctors are in business. It's that simple. They used to not be able to advertise. That's all changed. All the safeguards have gone away. Pharmaceuticals used to not be allowed to advertise on television or in magazines or anything else. Cigarettes were not originally, well, that came later. But anyway, basically that all changed in a lot of different ways. We can make a difference, especially if we talk about it, we communicate it, we build a quiet underground movement of that nature, and we be very careful what we support with our money. That'll make a difference.
You know, I think you're exactly right. And one of the things that I keep hearing throughout our conversation today is the individual personal empowerment that each of us have, and how do we use it? How do we ignite it? I think there's a lot of fear out there, especially based on what just happened. A lot of people are not sure that they're safe out there to even speak about it. But I think that we can probably do it with each other and build communities and pay for what we truly support. If you don't, support child labor, then be aware of the labels that you buy.
Exactly.
And where it's made and how they're made and the type of materials that they're made from. There's a great movie out there called Dark Waters that talked about the Teflon, the DuPont and what they hid on the Teflon, the pans and stuff we used to use.
No, I didn't know that. I'll have to watch that one.
It's a good one. It's a good one. I highly recommend it. I think it's on Netflix. And, they're being exposed. But, they may not be exposed everything. Everything may not be exposed.
No, that's true.
It's for us to be able to dig a little bit and to use our power. And I think that's, what Espavo talks a lot about, is using our power. And I think that's what the crux of this entire conversation is all about.
That's exactly it. Well, that's the word Espavo. Espavo's a greeting from ancient Lemuria that says, thank you for taking your power. Thank you for taking and holding your own power. Perfect. Because we give it away all the time. We give it away all the time for people. Oh, I want them to do the politics. I want them to do this. I want them to do this. I'm going to hire these people to do this. Yeah, we give it away all the time.
We're giving it away through our fear.
Yes, we do. We do. And it's not wrong. We're human. We're going to have fears, obviously. But the group had an interesting thing the other day, and I can't remember. I think it was in the podcast we just put out. But they said something about fears. They said, the majority of your creations on planet Earth have been from fear. They've been created from fear because you create from the love or the lack of love, which is fear. So you've got love and you've got fear. Those are the two opposites in that way. So when they said you're getting close to be, and I think it's a lot of what's taken place on this earth too, with the politics and everything else, I think it's pushing us into creating more with love. That's perfect. If we learn that from this mess, it will be worthwhile. It will be worthwhile. The community is coming together. Very difficult to do, not easy to do. We've seen what happened with social media. We've seen how social media is leading to us in a lot of different ways. It's been wonderful to connect people, but at the same time, it's caused all kinds of problems because they collect the information from us. They have so much information on us, they know exactly what it's going to take to move us one way or another. And that's sad. Anyway,
We try to be connected and we end up being disconnected.
that's it. That's it.
It's just crazy.
Well, they've had some recent things that have basically said empathy on this planet has completely gone away. A lot to do with social media. You can type things anonymously, can't you? And therefore the empathy goes away. You're not always aware of the effect it has with people. It's why we have internet trolls. It's why we get attacked on the internet. It's basically provided a safe space for the dark side to come out and explode rather than come out in a normal way. Yeah.
And I think we're all looking for ways in which we can protect ourselves from that. So there's a lot more questions, but there's two that I think maybe might be pertinent before I think you want to go into channel.
Sure.
Okay. Okay. So one of them is, what energy sources will exist in our future that don't exist today? Is there anything the group has on that?
We've had free energy all along. Free energy is not going to be free. Let's get clear about that. Even Tesla was going to have to charge for his abilities to put up all these towers and things that he was going to do. But we have ways of tapping into universal energy, which is science is calling dark energy. That is an energy form. And all energy can be converted into other forms of energy. We don't know how yet. We don't even know what dark energy is, even though it makes up 78% of the universe is dark energy. Small fraction is dark matter, which is about 23%. And then you've got about 16% or whatever the remaining figure is that is actually matter that we see, the things that we deal with every day. That's only a very small percentage of this. Now, can we tap into that? We're starting to. Just the fact that we've started to harness the sun, we've started to harness the wind, we're starting to make major breakthroughs with cold fusion. Very big deal. Lots of opportunities which are free. The group actually showed us at one, and it won't be free because you're going to have to pay somebody for, the conversion of it. Energy converts. But they showed me one time where we're liable to have a box about this big in our house that creates all the electricity that we need, all the energy that we need. We're making major advancements right now about being able to cool and heat, being able to change the temperature of the air very quickly, very inexpensively. Right now I've got a huge air conditioner on my house. I live in the desert. I have to have an air conditioner, plain and simple. We wouldn't live without them. But the reality is, what if that was very small, and what if that was capable of running on 12 cents a day? That is coming. And those are technological advances, many of which have been hidden by larger companies that want to corner the market and keep other things off the market. But there's coming a lot that the technological boom that's going on right now is going to continue. Some of it's being used against us. Yes, technologies move faster than we can catch up, and yet some of it's going to be really good for us. A lot of those things will be coming from there. We will be able to tap in to the universal energy, which is the same thing that we're calling the akasha, the same energy that connects us all, that we can read and we can work with. We're going to be doing some new work in Lightmaster this next year. And one of the things that the group wants to get into, which is why we've been talking about the universal energy and the akasha, is a new modality that they want to work with about generational healing. Many times people pick up something from 5 generations back that they are here to clear, and they have no idea where it came from. They have no history of being abused, and yet they're carrying abuse issues or things of that nature. PTSD even. Huge things that are affecting people's lives in the universal energy. We use the universal energy to go back, change it, alter it, resolve it in some way, and then come forward and live in a freer world. Lots of opportunities to work with this in new ways.
That sounds very exciting, actually, for health issues and all different types of things that we might be pulling in that aren't really ours. We don't really need them.
That's true.
Yeah.
We do it all the
So
time.
I want to go into something you did talk a little bit about earlier, which are the ETs. And I know you've had some hesitation in your past.
Huge.
Yeah. And nobody wants to be a part of conspiracy theories, and it's really unfortunate because some of these things that are actually truthful have been given a bad rap,
Sure.
and it's certainly unfortunate. But let's go to Jerry here. She says, I keep hearing about how the arrival of ETs is imminent. Given that humans are often in fear of something they don't understand, don't look like, or act like them, or fit the norm, I'm concerned about this arrival of the ETs. How do you think the people of the world will react to the ETs? And does the group have any idea of the timing of when this might actually happen?
Oh, how about 9 million years ago? They've been here all along. They're not new. They have been in hiding the same way that we hide from other beings sometimes, lesser beings, animals. We stay out of their way. And they have been basically staying out of our way in many times. Most of the ETs that deal with us are well-meaning. They don't have anything, most of them are pretty far advanced. They don't have any reason to try and take us over. Are there minerals that they want? Do they want gold? Do they want diamonds? Maybe, but that's not what's taking place here. What's taking place is we have all these different beings from different places. There's 4 races that are able to work with Earth right now, have been here from the beginning of time. If you look at the pyramids, you look at Chichen Itza, you look at Giza, you look at some of the pyramids throughout the world, we do not have the technology to do that. We cannot do that right now today. And they give us stories about millions of people coming together and hauling those stones up here. And we do not have the technology to do that. We never did. I do believe that the ETs have been here all along. I do believe that this is the planet of free choice. They have agreed to that, and they have backed off. And they've allowed us to evolve on our own until we get to the point where we're about to destroy the Earth. And then they're jumping back in, and they're taking a look, and they're seeing what they can do. And that's what's happening most of the time. Yes, there is a small faction that's actually trying to take us over, but they're doing so quietly. They're not going to come in with their weapons and say, you go over here and you go over here. They're working with the powerful people, many times the wealthy people on this planet that have influence on other people. They've worked with many of our presidents. We've told the story. We're telling the story in Lightmaster. The next 2 Lightmasters are going to be all about the history of Earth and the history of humanity. And we'll probably make those available even for people that weren't in Lightmaster at the time, because Lightmaster is continually moving. But those are going to be some very important parts. And they tell the story about what's going on and what's taking place and what's happening with this faction of the reptilians. Keep in mind, we think of reptilians as bad beings. Well, that would be like calling Earthlings bad beings. But yet there may be a small faction of Earthlings that are doing some really negative things. We know that. Doesn't mean everybody is. So let's be careful about drawing lines and trying to group everything together. There's going to be good guys and there's going to be bad guys in the 3rd dimension. Step into the 5th dimension, we lose duality. We step into something called triality. We have to learn to look at things in a different way. Everything that's happening, even negative, can have a positive effect if we work with that and we know how to land it. So those are all things that can come together in these ways. And I hope that, I know we're able to do this. We're able to come together. And I think what's taking place is very much like religions that existed very quietly so that not attract a lot of attention, that we as light workers can come together. We can share stories. We can share our dreams. We can share our hopes. We can share tools that work for us in the 5th dimension. We can be able to let go of a lot of this 3rd dimensional junk that we're walking through right now. Yeah. I don't know if I specifically answered that question or not. The group starts dumping things in, and I got to bring them out. So that's very, very close to a channel.
Yeah, I know. I can feel it in your own energy, and I can only imagine what it's like to try to transfer what you're hearing and put it into English for all of us, to make sense of the question and all of that. So thank you for that. Do you want to do a few more? Do you want to go into channels?
No, go ahead a little bit more. We'll do a quick channel, but I think, the numbers are still growing, so I think we're fine.
Okay, terrific. Okay, so Russell asks, I've heard you say on several occasions that as a creator being, when I enter a room, the molecules form to create the reality that I see. I'm curious what happens when I enter a room at the same time as one or two others, or when I enter a room that is already occupied by other creator beings. Are we all seeing the same thing?
Yes, you sort of are, because what the group said, the very first time that you walk into a room, whether it just be new to you or whether it be not, the atoms are actually jumping all over the place. And they actually come together to form what you expect to see, or what has been anchored by others already. And they'll form to anchor that front, and then you can move things around, you can change things, you can move this over here, you can do different things. And then the next time you come in, it's anchored in the timeline already, but basically it's there. But we know this from quantum physics. There's the whole double slit experiment, which is absolutely fascinating. They showed a beam coming through a piece of paper with two slits in it. And this beam was supposed to simply go through and show what it would show on the wall, how it would do. Well, interestingly enough, it formed a pattern that nobody expected. And then they turned off the cameras. The moment it wasn't observed, it did something else. And that's very difficult for us to understand. That proves that we are creator beings. Now, they haven't been able to do that yet. That improves a lot of things. It also proves that every experiment that's ever been done by anybody is already tainted by the intent of the person doing the experiment. Plain and simple. We are creator beings. We don't know how to do that. We do it all the time automatically, and other people have learned how to use our creations for us. Look at advertising. Look at very simple ways of influencing us. And the group talks a lot about this in the bodysuit, the whole idea of the bodysuit and the two brains that we use, the fast brain and the conscious thinking brain, different aspects. Well, people can get reactions from us which come from the fast brain, very quick. They can give us triggers that they know. How do they know those triggers? They collect so much data on us. They know all of our triggers and more. And that was used largely in this last election, big time. Yeah. So we've got a lot of these things going on. We can see how they're working. We can see lots of new things that are coming up. But there's lots of possibilities going forward in this as well as to how we want to work with this and what we want to do.
So let's talk about last timers.
A lot of them.
Yeah, and that's what Yvonne says. Yvonne says there are some of us who are last timers. I feel like many of us are ready to go now and not wait for the years until humanity, quote, gets on its feet in the fifth dimension. It's not that we've abandoned caring, we are just weary. It's like having the lungs on their last legs and being asked to take one more breath. Any words of wisdom for us last timers?
Oh, my heart goes out to you. I feel that when she says that. I absolutely understand what you're saying. We all get weary. We get tired. We get very frustrated that all of our wishes the world seems to be going against us in many ways. The thing that we can do best is to step forward. Know that you're making a difference just by holding the energy that you're holding, because it is a collective energy that we all share through the akasha, through the universal energy, through the dark energy. the connections that we do. You are a light in the darkness. And I know you get tired of holding that candle up. We all do. But that's why we want to try to come together. In aspavo.org, in steverother.org, our new website, we have a special place for the Light Masters to start coming together. I don't know how it's going to work. We may have to tweak it. We may have to figure things out. But we have a kind of a social media area where different projects can be brought together. We can do live events. We can talk to people very quickly. We can get question and answers in there. I'm hoping to expand that. Once we do it with the Light Masters, if it works, if we're able to use that and make it work successfully, which I think we can, we'll open one up for everybody, whether they're a Light Master or not. And that process is something that I'm working on, that the group really wants to create community, which is why we're doing this on YouTube. That's part of the other reason. The group wants to create a community on YouTube as well, which is very safe, very free. You don't have to be a Light Master. You can just come and experience what you want. Be doing the Park Bench projects here as well. That's all part of the stuff that we offer, and Jim Self is offering as well. So they'll all be here on our YouTube and on his to be able to do that. So come together where you can. Now, I'm going to also give you a quick caution about social media and YouTube in particular. They create what the group calls the House of Mirrors. It's very simple. When you first come into YouTube, you don't see your own channel. You see the things that they know are going to interest you. But the interesting thing is many people get their news from that. Please don't. Absolutely don't. You're only going to get the things that are filtered for you. You're not going to get a wide perspective of different aspects. You can spend all day in YouTube looking at things. Your eyes will get very bright. You'll figure out, and you'll pick up every conspiracy theory out there. So use it accordingly. Find the people you want to follow and follow them. But be careful of that front page. It's even YouTube. Google calls it the rabbit hole, because once they get you down one of those rabbit holes, it triggers, and it got to other ones that are very similar. And off to the side, you see other rabbit holes that are all set up for you. Be careful there. Have fun by all means, but don't get your news there, please. It makes a huge difference. Okay, that's the community aspect. That's what we're working with. That's what we can do, really.
Well, that's good. And, YouTube is very good that you can just subscribe. Just subscribe to the, it's free.
Please subscribe to our channel. Absolutely.
Yeah, it helps our numbers, and it helps get our numbers getting bigger means that it gets out there more. And so the community can grow that way. So it's really where you want to put your energy. And I want to ask maybe one of the last questions here, because we do have other questions, but I think we've covered a lot of ground, and I feel like we're probably going to do this one more time. What do you think?
More than one time. We'll do this fairly regularly. Schedule's pretty busy right now, but it should lighten up a little bit, and we'll do it as often as possible.
Yeah, well, I look forward to it. Yeah. But somebody did ask on the chat, on the live chat, that I think might be a good thing to sort of move into is Monopati, I think is the YouTube name. But why do we feel like we are moving so slowly to the fifth dimension? And then he follows up, or she follows up with, what are we doing wrong?
I don't think we're doing things wrong. I do believe that what is really taking place is that, like I said, the feminine energy is rising. Change is happening very slowly. The old energy sees that, and they're planning all these things, and they're grabbing hold of everything that they can by force to stop it from changing. That's what humans are afraid of, change anyway. But if you bring that into politics, you bring that into money, now you've got some massive power to try and stop the change. And we hold that in our heart. We can supersede that, especially if we step more into the fifth dimensional reality. It's not easy. I know you're going to get tired. We're all getting tired of seeing things, getting really excited about things, and then see something happen like this election. We can see that some of these things are going to be taken back. We know that LGBTQ rights are going to be attacked in the near future. We know that Social Security may disappear. We know that a lot of things may start to take place that we are not happy with. And yet it can be very frustrating for us. But if we come together and we hold it and we share even the frustration and we talk about it and we bring some hope into all of it, because that's all it takes. We don't need to have blind faith. We can just have a little bit of hope that we can plant and bring into our reality and step forward into it and grow that hope. That will change the world. More so than Google, more so than all the social media put together, all the rest of it. We can change the world one heart at a time. And we're doing that. So keep that in mind. We'll try to come together. We personally, and we're not the only ones doing it. There's a lot of wonderful channels out there. There's a lot of wonderful teachers out there in many varieties of different aspects. I know many scientists are doing some incredible things right now to be able to open people's eyes to new things. There's some incredible change that is coming very quietly and very quickly. So don't get discouraged and don't try to judge things as good and bad. That's third dimension. We move into the fifth dimension. We're going through the fourth dimension. We're being imprinted by new imprints. Second dimension, we were imprinted by the ego. We were imprinted by duality. Fourth dimension, we're being imprinted by triality. We're trying to learn how to do this differently, more effectively. That will work. It's going to take time. We're in the fifth dimension. We have to anchor it. We have to bring it into our daily lives. And the easiest way I can tell you to do that is to hold hands and literally work together as much as possible. Share your dreams, your hopes, your fears even. Share it all. Because once we do that, we can create something that will supersede all of it. And that's the intent. Okay?
That's beautiful. That's so beautiful. It's so encouraging. We have our work cut out for us, but you know what? We got through this much. We can get through it.
Absolutely.
We can create what we truly, truly desire and don't lose hope. I think that is just one of the things that, even for myself, I have to keep reminding myself, don't lose hope. There is a better tomorrow. There always is.
Excellent. I'm gonna bring the group in.
Right?
They're pushing now. So
this has been so much fun. Thank you.
Thanks, Allie. Thank you so much for being here. You're such a joy. She's been working with us in a lot of areas. So thanks, Allie. With that, greetings, dear ones. I am Meria. I join you this day with such pride. I am Meria, the feminine aspect of the Merlin energy. It's the beautiful time to share with you a reflection of humanity. For many of you are quite concerned with where things are moving at this moment. And we tell you, you're moving at the speed of love, which is much faster than the speed of light. You are unaccustomed to what is taking place. And as such, you're judging yourselves many times as having failed or being up against very challenging situations. There are times, dear ones, where humanity goes through these up and down cycles. If you look back of quite a few years into what you call the crash of 1929, there was a massive depression on your planet in all areas, not just one country, everywhere. And the reality was, you learned some things that you could not have learned any other way. Was it difficult? Yes, of course it was difficult, especially with day-to-day life. We tell you, you're not going to go through nearly that much difficulty with these next steps. Life is a pendulum. It swings back and forth. You've already been pushed way beyond the fulcrum point with this one. So we tell you, hold your light. Know that you understand more of humanity than you can possibly understand right now. We know you feel frustrated. We know many of you feel like you've been abandoned or you can't connect in some way. But you're creator beings, and we will show you that. You have created everything in your life. What you call the good, the bad, and the ugly are all your creations. As much as you'd like to only create good, we tell you that's not possible. You have moved through the second dimension. You have been imprinted with duality. So there is a dark side. You learn to embrace that dark side and not be afraid of it. You'll find that there's beauty in the darkness and that you can create everything as a result. So what we tell you is that you are creator beings first and foremost. And what we tell you is if at any time you are unhappy with the reality that you have created, first of all, take responsibility for it. Know that it was your creation, not look to solve it by pointing to someone else. And secondly, choose again. You're on the planet of free choice. Oh, some of you say, oh, I can't choose. I have commitments. I can't leave that relationship. I can't bail out on this. I can't leave that job. I'm supporting myself. I'm doing. Those are belief systems that we call BS. Be fluid, dear ones. Change is certainly at hand on your planet. But we're not worried about you. You're creator beings. You will create the highest out of all the changes that lie directly ahead for you. We tell you, you are magical beings. And it's our job to hold up that mirror to where you can start to see that yourselves. We ask that you not give your power to us, thinking that we are so much higher than you and you must pray to us or you must honor us in some way. That's not the case. We're perfectly fine if you disagree with things we are saying, but we plant seeds with creator beings. And that's all we do. And we hope to hold that mirror up for you so that you can see yourself in the light of home. Because when you can see that, you'll start to remember why you came to earth in the first place. And although many of you have completed all of the contracts that you've set up, you still hold that light. And that light is needed more on planet Earth now than ever before. The feminine is still rising, dear ones, but it's very quiet. It's very subtle. It is not forceful. And as such, you can become a part of that. Male or female does not make any difference. Those are only your physical attributes. But the energy of the feminine is now at hand. And you can work with this over and over again. Do not try to win every battle, dear ones. You will be exhausted. Simply plant your seed, say the highest potentials, and move on. And know that there's a higher realm waiting for all of you. Can you live in it all the time? Not yet. The fifth dimension is going to take a while to really anchor. But you can start anchoring many of those aspects right now. And even if you're only able to grab one little small tool of that, you bring it into your life. You start to incorporate it. Your eyes start to shine a little bit more. Your spirit becomes more present as you walk through life. When you do that, you plant seeds all around you. How does one move into an empowered society? Very simple. You empower those around you as best you can. So that is your charge, dear ones, to empower everyone that you can, even if you disagree with them, to find ways of sharing with them what the potentials are and knowing that you can only create for you, but you can create a space of light that is beyond your understanding. Create something special, something magical. Dare to treat yourself well. That's something many of you don't do. You think, oh, I need to take care of these people before I can do this for me. But we see you as spirits, dear ones. Nurture those spirits. Nurture your physicality. Nurture your energy. Nurture your bodysuit. All the rest. And let your spirit come forward. Your eyes will get brighter. You'll start to create things before you walk in the door. You'll see things about new techniques, new possibilities. You will awaken from the dream. Welcome home, dear ones. I am Meria. I am overjoyed that you are listening to our work. For we are here to plant seeds only, and to share with you that you're much further along than you possibly imagine. Do not judge yourselves. That is not your job. Step forward and anchor the light as best you can. It is with the greatest of honor that we greet you in these ways. Ask you to treat each other with the highest of respect, nurture one another, and play well together every chance you get. I am Meria. Come up and see me sometime. Espavo, dear ones.